Welcome to a very special version of Fans Fight Back with myself, Martin Theobald, joined by Af Essex Boxing. How you doing, Af?
All good, all good. Delighted to be here.
So what we're going to do is a rather special one because we're picking up on the Joshua Bowatsy win over Craig Richards at the weekend. And I think there's an element there of the people that have come through almost the hard way, the likes of Craig Richards, against those that have come through the Olympic route. And taking a look back at those 2016 Olympians, of which Bowatsy was part of that cohort, and seeing what the kind of the view is now of them, 6 years on almost to the month. How have they done? Have they overachieved? Have they underachieved? Could they have done more? Should they have done more? And there's a few random names in there as well that were part of the initial squad that surprised me when I went and looked through it, if I'm honest. So I'm going to throw some names at you and we'll come to an agreement on the end of it, whether they've over or underachieved. So I'm going to pick them at random. We've mentioned him already, Joshua Bowatsy. Let's start there. 16-0 as a professional, 16 fights in 6 years.
That is actually more than I thought. I've not looked up his record. I try and base some things as well on some of my armchair fan friends. So like I watched the fight on Saturday with a friend and he was like, why is this guy not fighting 3-4 times a year? Like, why didn't he just call out the big names, blah, blah, blah. And like, he has been, I guess, like some of them protected a lot. Should he be ahead? I mean, 16 fights for Craig Richards is probably about where he should be. But in terms of 6 years on from the Olympics, I mean, it took him about a year, I think, to sign a pro contract, didn't it? He didn't do anything.
Yeah, and I think, there's always that 12-month period that we'll give him a grace period for to kind of find their feet, go and do all the nice things when the Olympics are over before they pick it up. But
yeah, well, I mean, some of them, like Fraser Clark went straight into it, didn't he? He was boxing. He had a first pro fight within like 6 months, didn't he?
Yeah, went and broke his hand, and then poor old Fraser. I'm going to go turn another light on as well. I realise how bad my lighting is. Stay there. Let's try that. What a professional I am. So Bowatsy, 16-0, got to the point, I guess you'd say he's now borderline ready to fight for a world title.
Yeah.
As you say, there is that crossover aspect that isn't there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough, if you were watching Rio Olympics again, like last week, next week or something, like you'd say he's probably currently underachieving. I would say for 6 years on, bronze medalist. But was there an element that he overachieved in the Olympics? I mean, he stopped the guy from Uzbekistan, which is unbelievable for in an Olympics to stop an Uzbek. So very, very good. I think he was boxing in like the CYPs, like the Boys Club Championships, not even like 18 months before the Olympics. So he was a bit of a late bloomer, I think. I saw on Twitter the guy that we did this with last time, Kojak. He said that Bowatsy's always gassed and he needs to look at his fitness, which I was surprised by. I didn't really see that. Maybe he was, but I thought he was like an absolute machine in training. He don't drink, he don't party, he's got a good lifestyle, he's training all the time. He's on the cusp. He's on the cusp. He probably can do a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this is, I think we were just chatting about it quickly beforehand, gut feeling. It's not necessarily based on fact. It's like, do I feel like Bowatsy could and should have maybe done a little bit more than fighting Bolotniks in his kind of, 2 fights ago? And I probably do. When I think of where Richards has had to graft his way up from, I would kind of anticipate Bowatsy ought to be ahead of that. Yeah. But I temper that with Richards has just fought Bivol for a world title as well. So I'm going to give him an average. I think he's maybe on par. As long as he fights for a world title within his next 2.
Okay. All right. We're sitting on the fence for the first one. That's a good
great start, is it? Right. I'm going to give him a pass.
Okay. He passes the test.
Right. I'm going to pick the next one at random. Pat McCormack. It's an interesting one.
Interesting one. Yeah, he won silver, didn't he, in Tokyo against like Ronnie Iglesias, or is his name, the Cuban guy who was, well, I mean, he won gold in London as well, so he's an absolute force. So there's no shame in losing to Iglesias in a final. But he hasn't signed for anyone yet, has he?
Isn't he with Probellum? I think he's with. I'm sure he's with Probellum.
But yeah, has he fought? Has he had a fight yet or not?
Shows my level of research.
I mean, the fact that neither of us know.
No, I know. Yes, he fought Justin Mendy, a friend of mine from the small hall circuit. He fought him on his debut up in Liverpool. Rings a bell now. Up in Liverpool in March of this year. Stop Justin. I know Justin took that fight at short notice now, I think back to it. Fine for debut opponent.
Yeah. I think well, with McCormack, I think is TBC. So I don't want to bail out of another decision, but it's probably too early to judge his pro career, definitely.
Yeah. He did that second cycle after the Olympics. The second Olympic cycle, we'll let him have that. I'm going to pick one now. I'm going to go into the women's game.
Yeah.
I've got two options. I'm going to go with the first one, Nicola Adams.
Are we talking as a professional or as a boxing career?
As a professional. We're going to keep it in the professional realm.
Okay. I mean, it's probably easy to say she underachieved as a professional boxer. I mean, she had that draw, didn't she? And then did she retire after that?
She won a world title, didn't she?
She won. Wasn't that like vacated to her and given to her? And did she
a little bit? Yeah. I think this is maybe where I had to clarify. Some of this is going to be down to gut feel rather than fact, because she did win a world title, a WBO world title, when she was with Frank Warren. Make of that what you will. She retired on 5 wins, no losses, 1 draw. To win a world title on that, I think my biggest issue with it, and when I think if she's now retired, then we also have to consider legacy, is she did nothing to bring women's boxing forward, in my view. There are others that have done more and are continuing to do more. Yeah.
I mean, well, we can obviously look straight at Katie Taylor and think of the comparison between that and what Katie Taylor's done in the pro game. And I mean, her fight was on BBC the other day, wasn't it? The replay.
Yeah.
And even one of my family members was like, have you seen that women's boxing match on BBC? And they never watch boxing. So that's the reach that Katie Taylor has gone to with women's boxing. Whereas, Nicola Adams, people know her, my mum knows her for being on Strictly Come Dancing rather than being a professional boxer.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm going to go for one that maybe splits opinion next. Anthony Fowler. Anthony Fowler, just to recap where he's at, 16-2 in his career, so 18 fights thus far. What's his big? Did he win a British title? I think he might have won a British title. No, he hasn't actually. He fought a light middleweight, didn't he? So this maybe sums up where we're at with it. Is that
he lost to Fitzgerald and he lost to Liam Smith, didn't he?
Yeah.
So I mean, again, was it a case of, the thing is with the Olympians, some pro boxers are never going to get to that stage because they don't want to train full time. It's a lifestyle. It's 24/7, 365. Some of the good pros, they like to do training camps and that's their life. It's a different, whereas Anthony Fowler, he's a machine, or his nickname's the Machine, I think, isn't he? Yeah. So he's like an absolute, training sensation, I guess. So great fit for the Olympic program. And probably one of those that has not crossed over too well to the pro game. But in fairness to him, he has taken some of the dangerous fights when he didn't need to. Like Fitzgerald was probably a bit of a dangerous fight for him. It was a British dust-up. The Liam Smith one was a Merseyside dust-up. Didn't need to take it. Could have taken easier fights. I mean, he's a great talker. He's great on social media. So I think we've mentioned we're going to look at the full package and a gut feeling, right?
Yeah.
And I think his social media is, it's one of the best out there, isn't it? Him, whether you like it or not, it's very splits opinions. But he sells himself very, very well compared to a lot of probably better boxers that don't. It's a hard one. Is it just boxing? Just boxing is underachieving. As a career, he's doing just right. How's that?
Yeah, and I take this back. I know somebody lots of tentacles within Liverpool, was relatively close to that whole amateur setup. When Fowler turned over, he said he's not going to achieve what people think he will achieve. He's not going to be a world title holder. The pro game is not for him necessarily. And that stuck with me. And to that end, I kind of think every time I've seen him, I don't necessarily judge him as being someone who's going to fight for a world title. I almost judge him like I judge, and I know this is wrong, but I'm going to say it, Sam Eggington. In that I just enjoy his fights, Fowler. Like, he gets into a right scrap. He gives it everything. That Liam Smith fight, he gave it everything. That Fitzgerald fight, he gave it everything. He's not everyone's cup of tea. He's sometimes not my cup of tea. Yeah. But I do admire him in the ring.
Yeah.
And I don't think he'd ever win a world title. He hasn't won a British, so I'd probably say he's underachieved. But like you say, career-wise and maybe crossover appeal-wise, he's maybe done more than he perhaps should have.
Yeah, I mean, go back to Rio and the squad. I think he got put down by Kazakh or Uzbek.
Yeah.
Which, he got stopped in the Olympics. I think he probably knew he had to sell himself a little bit, and he has done well at marketing. I saw him randomly on PP Island in Thailand, and he was absolutely steaming, eating a pizza. The machine. That probably gained my respect more than his boxing.
Yeah, stuff. No, I'll be all right with that.
Yeah, he's a decent guy, so go for it.
Excellent. I like that. He was captain, wasn't he, as well, of that squad?
Yeah, he was, yeah.
All right, I'm going to pick another one people will be familiar with. Joe Cordina.
Currently, as a boxer, I would say he's probably underachieving, but I think, has he got a fight this weekend or?
It's the first weekend of June, I think.
It's in Cardiff, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a Gower for the world title.
Exactly. So, I mean, maybe he's going to go from underachieving to just right at that point. But he was one of the special talents, I think, from that squad. So that's why I'm saying he's underachieving for now, because he is class. He's absolutely class. He probably could get to, well, he is fighting for a world title. So he could be in the mix with the big names, on the elite level. So probably boxing wise, career wise, just underachieving for now.
Yeah. See, I'm going to raise a question more in general than about Joe Cordina. How many fights should Olympians need to become title challengers, world title challengers? I don't know what the answer. There's not necessarily an arbitrary answer for everybody, but when we start looking through these, it seems to be about 14, 15 seems to be about the right number.
Yeah. I think AJ was about 14, 15, wasn't he?
Yeah, but I think what then annoys me more is it takes them so long to get to 14, 15, because those first 6, 7 fights, they're pretty formative. They're pretty easy-going fights.
Yeah,
he should be knocked over in a year, in my view. And so actually, it's not necessarily the number of fights, but it's the time that it takes to get there that seems to know. I think back to Joe Cordina. Wasn't he due to fight on the AJ undercard, maybe even in Cardiff, and didn't? Same one of Cody got binned from when they ran out of time.
Yeah. He was a filler, wasn't he? He was just a filler.
Yeah. And I think back to that, and I thought at the time, Matchroom don't value you enough. Like, you need to be somewhere that does. But they've got him that world title fight. This forthcoming. I'm going under.
Yeah. I think with some, if you're a super heavyweight. Oh, is my connection all right? Yeah.
You're back.
Oh, okay. You lost me yet. So I'm unstable. I think with the Olympians, if I was like managing someone or something, if you're a super heavyweight, go for the big promoters. But there's almost an argument for some of the smaller weights to go with someone smaller that isn't the Showtime big time promoters, just to get those fights, because their O is so protected, isn't it, that they don't actually get out more than 3-4 times a year. Like you say, they could be so much more active. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what sort of money they earn. So maybe they earn enough in 4 fights, but 6 fights would probably, slingshot them a bit more to superstardom quicker.
Well, here's an interesting one. Then we'll move on to someone who is on the smaller weight divisions, someone who did sign with a different promoter, Cass Ashfaq. So he was part of that initial Haymaker stable, wasn't he? Where, if you think back, I think they had Joyce, Ashfaq, Linus Shidofia was one that they'd signed up as well at some point.
Was Joseph Parker in there? Was he in there? I can't remember.
Who's that, say?
Was Joseph Parker in there? Can't remember.
I can't remember. Doesn't ring a bell, but
anyway, yeah, he's had a bit of a. Actually, yeah. So maybe I should retract that statement, because signing with the Haymaker, it's ended up as a bit of a shocker, really, isn't it? Because,
yeah, I mean, I think, to be fair, they probably didn't know what they were signing up for. So Cash Ashfaq is 9-1. He last fought in 2020. So he's kind of gone off radar. Lost to Mark Leach, which I think was a pretty big upset at the time.
Yeah.
He's due to fight in July and make his kind of comeback, I guess, because it's 2 years out of the ring. But
what we're doing for 2 years of their career, it's like, well, I mean, we've had the pandemic, all right, but I mean, it's a long time, isn't it? How are they earning any money?
Yeah, he's nearly 30 years old now. It's not like he's kind of early 20s. He's had 2 years out, hitting 30. I mean, that's an underachievement, surely, for Cash.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, you can do more. It doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't mean you're bad or anyway, but you can do more.
Yeah. Like, let's see him come back. He's back in July. It'd be nice to see him go on and do something, because I feel for anyone that was part of that Haymaker stable, if I'm honest, for a multitude of reasons. Another one that went on to further their Olympic career, Galal Yafai. So Galal's now 2-0 as a pro. I think there's high hopes, isn't there? He's he's another one. We can't judge him yet, but
he won some sort of WBC belt pretty in the first or second. Was it the first bout he won that?
Yeah, first or second, but like, they're going to move him very quickly, I think.
Yeah. I mean, well, he's not totally young either, is he? I mean, I think he's a great lad. I think he was probably even unlucky in Rio. Who did he lose? He lost to the Cuban, Johnny Argilagas, I think, who was like current world champion at the time, won the world championships 2017 as well. Unbelievable boxer. And I think, he just had a bad draw. That could have been a final, that one. And he stuck with a cycle, lower weights, well played. And then Tokyo again he wasn't seeded, I don't think. And he stopped 2 people on the way to the final, which again, what is he, 52 kilos, 51 kilos? 52 kilo boxers, you don't make stoppages in the Olympics. So that's unbelievable. I saw him after he won his medal, and he's like, everybody doubted me. No one had me winning. No boxing journalist had me winning an Olympic gold medal. And I thought that was really cool. So I would say TBC, because he is to be confirmed at the moment. But if he's won an Olympic gold medal because everybody doubted him, and he made allowance for their doubting too, and he won, I'm going to say he's underachieving just to spur him on even more.
I think even Sonny Edwards says that lad is a special talent, and Sonny Edwards doesn't really talk that positively about most people on the planet. So for Sonny to give him such high praise, I think
his work rate his work rate, the volume of punches is just ridiculous. Like, he's just constantly coming forward, constantly throwing punches, and yeah, it's really exciting.
And I mean, hopefully as well, he's got that experience of his brothers, going through the professional career, that hopefully any of the hurdles they've tripped over, he may have learned from. I think, he could be a special talent.
Yeah.
Speaking of people and some of their cycles, Muhammad Ali.
You can't.
Too late, I have.
That's a clear underachiever at the moment. Again, terrific fighter, exciting fighter. Can do a lot on social media and gain. His name's Muhammad Ali. People are gonna remember that pretty easily. But he hasn't fought in 2 years, has he? I think he's had 3 pro fights.
Yeah, 3 pro fights. He had a ban in February 2018 for having substances in his system that he shouldn't have. But he's still young. He's still only 26, which I was surprised about. He was 20 at the 2016 Olympics.
Yeah. And he was boxing in the WSB for about 2 years as well. So he's got and they were boxing 5 rounds, as close to pro boxing as you can at that level. And he was doing really well for the GB Lionhearts, whatever they were called. And he was doing really well. So there is definitely potential, but obviously it's probably a wait and see. Or
I'm going to put my neck on the line with this one. You don't have to make any comment about it. I think it will be unfulfilled potential. Whereas I think Yafai will absolutely fly through his career, and I think we've got a future world title holder. I think Ali, we won't ever get to see what he potentially could have been. Is my gut feel on him.
Yeah, I mean, I follow him on Instagram and stuff, and he's still training, but he looks quite big for what he was. He's definitely not where he was weight-wise.
Well, he was a flyweight, wasn't he? Or in theory.
Yeah. So, like you say, we'll wait and see him.
I hope I'm proven wrong. Right. This one might split opinion. Josh Kelly.
I mean, well, I would say, again, he's underachieving at the moment. I don't really know what happened. I've seen him box in Baku in Azerbaijan 2015, and he was all right. I think he won bronze. I didn't really think he's going to be a world beater at that point. Rio, again, I think he probably won one, lost one. But he's very marketable, isn't he? Very, very marketable. So that might have gave him, a good foothold. But then I don't know what, lots of people turned against him when he was doing all the showboating stuff. And then since then, he lost to David Avanesian, didn't he? And then he's just gone quiet. Is he a family man now or what? I don't know.
Well, is it a risk, do you think, his marketability raises the expectation of what should happen? He's since signed with Wasserman since the Avanesian loss. He was meant to fight 3 weeks ago when Linus Udofia fought Denzel Bentley. His opponent never came out of his hotel room and he never fought. So he's going to fight up in Liverpool in 3 weeks.
He did that speech, didn't he, in the ring? That was a bit odd.
That was a real weird one. He almost feels a little bit Fowler-esque for me, that there's maybe a raised expectation that he was never going to achieve. But I still think of him as being 21 years old. He's nearly 30. I think he's 28.
He could be, if someone got around him that was good enough, he could be a British Ryan Garcia. Yeah, I think that's a fair comparison. So, but who knows what's going on in life? So, who knows?
Yeah, I think he sits on the underachieving side of the spectrum, but that might be through a raised expectation that he was never going to get to anyway. But again, he's only had 12 fights. 12 fights in, call it 5 years, if we give him a year off. It's not good enough. You can't be fighting twice a year as a prospect. It's not good enough.
No. Who knows what's going on? Well, we'll see. We'll see, won't we, in Liverpool? If is he still with Adam Booth? Is he?
I don't know.
Nah.
No, I don't know.
No.
No idea. But it's a stalled career, and it doesn't quite work for me. One that isn't a stalled career, and one I think will be unanimous on, Lawrence Okoli.
Why are you saying unanimous? Let's go. What are you saying?
Like, what an achiever, what an overachiever in life, in boxing, in everything. Like, if you look at all the odds that are stacked against him and where he's got to, and you look at his life now, you think that's a man who's achieved probably more than what he anticipated he would.
Did he ever work in McDonald's? Do you know?
I've heard rumours that there might have been a Coley burger.
Source, trust me, mate. The reason he's overachieved, I'll tell you boxing wise first. He obviously had very, very little experience going into the Olympics. I think he only had like 30 amateur fights or something, didn't he? He lost to Savon in, I don't know, the second round, Erislandi Savon, right? Who AJ beat in 2012.
Yeah.
His uncle is, Felix Savon. He's got the pedigree, unbelievable Cuban boxer. And he lost on points. I don't know if like that 258 management were there at the time, but I know a lot of his family were, or his friends at least. They were shouting from the crowd. And he lost. It wasn't too much of a fight. It was almost like he was just trying not to get knocked out, because about 2 months before that, he fought Savon in the WSB, and Savon put the seat of his pants 3 times in the second round, absolutely wiped the floor with him. No one ever talks about that, right? And he got obliterated by Savon. In the Olympics, he gets drawn against him again, and he was basically running around for three rounds. Then AJ's there, and they're going out in Brazil and in Rio on nights out, and he's with 258, isn't he? And he got that deal. And I mean, some of those fights at the start when he was, I can't remember the
dreadful.
The one where he was hugging all the time. People said hugging, like
Matty Askin fight.
Yeah. Now what? Last month or 2 months ago, he's headlined to the O2. So definitely overachiever.
Unreal. I think that switch to Shane McGuigan has unleashed something within him, and maybe it was always there and he just needed the right level of opponent. But it'd be nice to see him go on and start unifying and then going up into heavyweight. But I have so much admiration for the man, because
he must be the most awkward person to box ever. I watched him box in the London ABAs in about 2015 or 14, and he was coming against some good lads then, like James Branch. I think he beat James Branch, who's went pro and has stalled a little bit as well. Lovely bloke. But it wasn't expected at the time, but it just must be so awkward.
Yeah. Right, 2 more. Final 2.
Right.
You want to go male or female?
We'll start with female.
Savannah Marshall. 12-0, world title. Beat Hannah Rankin for the world title, didn't she?
Right.
Now on course to fight in September against Clarissa Shields, undisputed.
That's going to be class. Like, I'm actually proper excited for that. I will sit down in front of the TV, proper in the zone for that one. The build up is a little bit, I mean,
and I'm not sure I can put up with 4 more months of that build up. Like, you've exhausted it at this point.
Yeah, it's just
fighting in June, not September.
A little bit awkward. Currently, I mean, it's all down to the Clarissa Shields fight, to be fair, I think. I mean, look, world title, great, but as a whole package, has she earned a lot of money? I don't know. Payments, but is she a household name? She's not. She's not yet. If she beats Clarissa Shields, she will be, definitely. And again, I was watching, I think it was Eubank Jr. when she was on the undercard, wasn't she, for Eubank Jr.? And that's when Clarissa Shields and Savannah were going at it.
Yes. Yeah.
And I watched it with some friends, and again, they were like, "This is okay. We know she is now, so she's getting there." But it's whether she can deliver on the night, because she lost in the first round of London Olympics when she was world champion at the time, which she won world champion not against the odds, but people didn't know her at the time. She won world championship, went out in the first round of London. I think she went out in the second round in Rio to the Dutch girl, and they were always fighting. And it's whether she can handle those big moments. I guess that was always the question mark for her in that cycle, in those cycles, was can she factor in the big moments. So Clarissa Shields, I mean, she's the only woman that's beat her, isn't she? It's going to be interesting, but yeah, TBC. I think TBC.
I think you're right. I mean, cleaning up the rest of that division hasn't sparked any huge interest, just because we don't know the rest of that division that well outside of Hannah Rankin, maybe. But yeah, if you beat Clarissa Shields, awesome. But hopefully we get to see, if it's a decent fight, maybe we see it a few times. Because I don't know who else she's going to fight at that point anyway. That's sort of moving up and down.
Everyone needs a good dance partner, and I think that those two could match quite well. So hopefully it's a good fight. Yeah. And like you say, even a second or third fight would be interesting. I'd still watch it.
We're going to move on to the last one. I've saved him. He's the biggest of all of them. Joe Joyce.
It's hard to tell if he's under or over at the moment. He was definitely performing at an amazing level. Has he just had an injury, or someone's pulled out or something?
Yeah, I think he was injured about probably 9 months ago, and he's been recovering.
But is the fight because he's fighting Joseph Parker, isn't he?
No, he's not. So he's just been announced today that he's fighting at Wembley Arena against TBC.
He's good.
We'll see. It's not Joseph Parker next, but there was talk of it.
So Joe Joyce, I think he's amazing. I was looking at his record from Rio. Oh my God. Like, he beat Jalalov, who won the gold in Tokyo, absolute unit. He beat Ivan Dishko, which is either Ukrainian or Kazakh, that AJ beat in the semis of London. So no walkover. And then obviously he lost that one in Tony Yoka in the final, which is obviously very, very close. If I'm going to put my neck on the line, I would say right now, Joe Joyce is better than Dillian White. That's probably where I'd rank him. One of the good fights, I think, for him, what would be, is that rematch versus Tony Yoka, especially now, after Yoka lost the other day. Joe Joyce, Tony Yoka, Olympic final again. Let's do it. That would be class. And I think that would propel him into the proper mix. At the moment, it feels like he's going through the motions a little bit. I mean, he's great win against Daniel Dubois, but he's not got time on his side, really, has he, Joe Joyce? He's getting on a little bit. So
it's almost a shame he didn't get to Yoka before Bacoli did, because it taints Yoka a little bit how badly he got spangled by Bacoli. Yeah. I'm going to call him an underachiever, and I feel terrible saying that because I love Joe Joyce. Yeah. But I think his debut was against Ian Lewison, who was just coming off the back of that Dillian White fight. At that point, we all had high hopes he could be fighting for a world title within 2 years. With 6 years on, it kind of feels like we're treading water a little bit.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, for his age, I'd put him at over. For general, his career path, just under. But that can soon change if TBC ends up to be a good name, a big name. Then we'll certainly change that opinion.
We shall see. Right, awesome. Thank you so much. We've done a whistle-stop tour of all the 2016 Olympics. We need to do the 2020 ones at some point, see where they're up to, and then we need to make
in 6 years' time. In 6 years' time. But no, it's I think, I don't know what our league table is there. We should have made a little tally along the way and said under or whatever. But
that's true. I think Lawrence Okoli wins hands down.
We're over, yeah.
the biggest overachiever, and congrats to him for doing so, because it's an awesome McDonald's-based story. But thank you so much, man. I appreciate your time.
And you, yeah.
You take care, man, and enjoy your evening.